Welcome to Dark Oddity. I'm joerice. I'm here with Steve.
Howdy.
Steve Harkins, baby. And on this edition of Dark Oddity, or this segment of Dark Oddity, we're going to talk about vampires. Now, everybody knows vampires, blah, 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 and, Hotel Transylvania and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
Which actually, I watched all of them.
Yeah, so did I.
Yeah, but I have kids.
I got a 4-year-old niece. Is that a viable?
No, not at all.
Think so.
Not at all. But that's okay.
All right.
That's okay. So basically, vampires, as we know, sleep during the day, come out at night,
Right.
and they drink blood. For the most part.
Mostly, yeah.
Yeah, for the most part. The original source of the vampire, though, actually sucked your life force, not your blood.
Energy vampires.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where basically vampirism comes from, and then morphed into blood-sucking creatures that we know today. Throughout history, though, it's not a ton written. The first actual fictional book, it's not Bram Stoker, by the way.
No, it's not.
There's one that predates Bram Stoker, just by a few years, I believe. Not many, 5 maybe.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
And that's pretty much where the fictional Dracula that we know today kind of comes from. Late 19th century, 1890s or so.
Yeah.
Right around there, I believe.
Yeah,
Don't quote me, but
I believe if you actually time it out when the 2 books came out, they were working on them simultaneously. It's just one got to a publisher sooner.
Yeah. And then that's pretty much the vampire we know today, which was a great book.
Right.
Awesome movie too.
Oh, great.
Yeah, great movie. One of the best vampire movies I've ever seen. But reality is that we were fearful of the dead coming back.
Yes.
So
that's partially where zombies came from. It was a fear of the dead.
Yeah, yeah. And people used to put bars over caskets.
There were bars over caskets. There were pipes sent down and a hole drilled in the coffin box with a string tied to a rope to let you know in case if either somebody came back to life, they could ring the bell.
Yeah.
And
that's in Massachusetts, by the way.
That's where the term sounding the alarm came from.
No, Saved by the Bell.
Saved by the Bell. Sorry.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which was a segment I was actually going to work on.
Well, we'll see that in a future video then, won't we?
Let's hope. But basically, what they used to do is decapitate bodies as they put them in for fear that they would come back and haunt the living, drink the blood of the living. Now, as the 16th and 17th centuries came around, that started happening a lot. It happened in places like Romania, it happened in England, it happened in the United States, where people were just so fearful of the dead. And back then, just dreaming of somebody who passed on brought the stigma that they were a vampire.
Wow.
People didn't understand, you dream, God knows the garbage I dream. But just dreaming of somebody who passed on signified that they were a vampire and they had to be taken care of, either beheaded or dismembered totally, and they would do some crazy stuff. I mean, literally cut the body in pieces. Just because you had the dream.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
So, it's something based in real life. Now, whether vampires are real or not, it's a whole nother story. We have people today that actually drink blood.
Yes, there's people that drink blood, but there's also in nature with certain plants and animals, vampirism, I believe, is the...
Well, vampire bats.
Well, vampire bats are kind of a loose term, but there's a ton of plants that they'll attach to other animals and stuff, and technically they're energy vampires, and they drain the life force, essentially.
How loose of a term? Will I get lucky?
Possibly. Cool.
Now, with those type of creatures, though, you're talking about something like a parasite of some sort?
Yeah. They're considered parasitic.
More zombie, though. Because there's there's the zombie fly.
That's a different.
So
the zombie fly is created from a parasite also. But the parasite pretty much takes over the brain function of the fly.
What's it? The something bot.
I'm not sure. But
I used to know the name of that, but
I'm sure it'll be on the screen somewhere here. No, So instead of it like killing the fly and taking it over, it just attaches to the fly and very slowly drains it. And once it's dead, it either finds a way to get to a new host or it dies because there's no more to consume.
And I read a story one time that particular fly, when it lands on something, it impregnates. Well, not impregnates. It lays its eggs into whatever it is.
Right.
Did it to a human.
Ooh.
Right behind the ear.
Oh, I don't...
And before the guy actually got to a doctor, he would lay awake all night because he would hear it boring in his flesh.
I don't like that. That's not okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I don't know if it would do the same for a human. But just think of the ramifications if it did. Because that's where you get zombies from then.
Right. Yeah.
Basically. I mean, there's the whole, voodoo, black magic stuff. But this actual parasite that actually takes over the brain functions of another insect.
Yeah.
And those eggs get laid.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of freaky, right?
Weird.
Yeah.
That's real weird.
And the guy just couldn't sleep because all he heard was in his brain, man.
That's going to keep
I don't know what happened I don't know the end of that story either. But
well, let's leave it a mystery, and if anybody wants to go look it up, they can.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of lore with vampires, and but as far as like what we see today, like just caught the new Morbius trailer.
Right.
That looked pretty cool. It looked pretty cool.
Soon,
I wasn't a fan of the comic book. I would check out the cover and be like, oh, that looks cool, because I was always into, the dark stuff, the horror stuff.
Right. The darker side is always more interesting.
Always. Dark side has cookies.
Exactly. I mean, it looks interesting. I'm curious to see how much of his vampiric abilities they actually keep, and even, even vampiric abilities, like, that's a wide range of things, too. You got super speed, super strength, turning into a bat or a cluster of bats and whooshing off into the night.
Oh, yeah.
Those are...
shape-shifting. Dog, wolf, whatever,
Right.
We've seen them all. I don't know, did you catch the Netflix 3-part series on Dracula?
I don't think I did.
Part 1 and 2 are really good. And it's, Jonathan Harkins, it's the old cast.
Okay.
And it's really good until he gets to the New World. And I thought they kind of mailed the rest kind of in.
I think I did actually watch this.
Part 1 and 2 were great.
Yeah.
Part 3, not so much.
I mean, usually...
But it was this classic vampire tale. He gets on a boat, people start disappearing.
Right.
And he makes it, tries to make it to the New World. They stop him, though, and they sink the boat. When there's only like 2 or 3 out of the 20 people left.
Right.
They decide to sink the boat, burn it or whatever, and try to get away. And what happens is he falls to the bottom in his coffin, to the bottom of the sea.
Okay.
And he's left there for hundreds of years. Yeah. And then when they come to today, it catches up to today, the descendants of the people that were on the boat kind of find him, and it was the same person playing the same.
Right, of course. You gotta have some kind of.
I was like,
you gotta be able to show that it's like a generational thing.
But what made it really good, especially the first 2 parts, was it played the vampire role very well.
Did they?
Jonathan Harkins was turned into a vampire.
Okay.
Semi. And even in most of the stories in Bram Stoker, he wasn't full vampire.
Right.
And in that particular series, he's sitting there at the table in the convent.
Okay.
And he's talking to the nuns. And he's, half out of it.
Right.
And the flies are like walking through his eyeballs, and it's like weird. It was great visual stuff.
Yeah.
Like really, really cool stuff. Like the fly landed on his eye and then went in.
Oh, that's...
And you're like,
yeah, that's...
But it was perfect, though. It was perfect. It was really perfect. And then, of course, Dracula comes for Harkins.
Yeah, it's for me, of course.
And he comes to the gates. It's a convent, so he can't come in. So all the nuns are there, and some of the nuns know what goes on, some of them don't. And, he ends up turning into a dog, trying to get in, and telling the sisters he's got to do all kinds of fun stuff with them. So it was really good. If you get a chance, check out that Netflix
Definitely.
series.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a plug for Netflix here.
Yeah,
So Netflix, if you're watching, I am plugging you, and I am looking forward to the return favor.
Of course. Expect the check in the mail.
Well, just sign us to a multi-year deal.
Yeah, something.
So now, when you watch like Bram Stoker, I thought that was one of the best portrayals of a vampire as well.
Yes.
I mean, we were at the point where there's probably 50 vampire movies made in the last 30 years.
Oh,
Maybe more.
If you're just counting movies, sure.
Yeah.
But there's TV shows, video games, comic books.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah. So it's pretty saturated.
Somehow it just became this thing. Like we said, it's the dark side. People are interested in it, and
people want to know what's
going on.
Yeah.
That's partially why we started these shows.
Yeah, exactly.
To get down to the truth and
find out what's up and share it with everybody. And that's, it's the main reason why we do this.
Yeah.
But with the vampire, it's kind of been saturated today. We went through the Bela Lugosi years, and
I mean, those are
my favorites were the Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein and everybody else. Those were the best. I loved those as a kid. Mm-hmm. Just a long time ago.
Okay.
But it was good. It was good. We had a color TV, by the way.
All right.
They just came out when I was born. Those were my favorite. I was never a big fan of Bela Lugosi. I wasn't a big fan of the old black and whites and the silent era and stuff like that. So it's hard to watch, like the original Nosferatu. Yeah. That looks sick.
Oh, it's incredible.
Now I've seen parts of it. It's hard to watch.
I think they're bigger now than they were then.
No, I beg to differ.
Really?
That was cutting edge. Not only technology, but the character himself, and never mind what Max von whatever the hell his name was, Max von Schreck. He would in character the entire. I mean, they made a movie based on that movie, saying that he was. Did you ever see that? What's his name was in it too? Hola Kavuva was in it. He played
John Malkovich.
John Malkovich. Thank you.
Why is that the go-to for him?
I don't know, because I love that movie too.
All right.
Anyway.
So
So what movie were we talking about? This is a vampire movie, right?
Yeah, we're talking about vampires. It's this whole episode.
So they made a movie based on the Nosferatu movie.
Yes.
Where Max Schreck, whatever they call him, was an actual vampire. That was really good too.
Yes, I remember that.
I think that was William Dafoe starring as Schreck. Yeah.
Sounds right.
Yeah. And that was really, really good. It was a vampire movie based on a vampire movie, which was a great concept.
That gets meta, because you could do that. You could essentially remake that movie every single time and just get further and further. And it's just they're playing this actor who's actually a vampire, who's playing this actor who's actually a vampire. And there's just so many levels
and they based that movie because he would never come out of character for the whole shoot.
Right. He was
somewhat of a prick in real life too. Oh. So it was just easy to say, he's a fucking vampire.
But you know what? That seems to be a trend with vampire movie actors. Because if you look back to Blade.
Oh, okay.
Wesley. There's the stories go around that he was one of the worst people on set.
Wow.
I mean, probably because he was at like the height of his career and he thought he was untouchable. But it's like he would show up, do one take, and then look at people and go, you know what? I'm done. Like, that's your take.
What was his other great movies besides the Trinity series, the Blade series?
He had a shit ton. I don't know
but they were all,
I know him from those, but I also know them because...
Look, he did a ton of movies, but he did the original Major League.
Yeah.
He was Billy Mays Hayes, I believe, in the Major League movie. Mm-hmm. And then they replaced him for part 2.
Yeah.
Because he got too big for his own bridges. The only thing I know about him was he didn't pay his taxes. I do know that much. Well, they were going to lock him up.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to that whole movie based on the movie.
Right.
That was some concept that was awesome. And
right.
They made that movie just so much better to watch. And if you knew the original story, of course you were into it. Yeah.
It had that extra flavor.
Yeah.
It had that extra flavor to it where
and then you have like movies like Blackula.
Haven't seen it in years, but yes.
Yeah, Vampire in Brooklyn.
Yeah, I mean, you have those, and then I mean, if you want to move away from movies, you got video games. I mean, the Castlevania series is...
Never played it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, fabulous. The entire thing is based off of Dracula and vampire and his lineage and creating
Nice.
his vampiric spawn Alucard, which they thought nobody would get. It's just Dracula backwards.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you get the Belmonts, who are basically vaguely based on the Van Helsings, which they come from.
That's a whole nother...
That goes back.
Yeah.
And that's...
Van Helsing. Which that movie was... at the time that movie came out, that was pretty good. And Hugh Jackman and... what's the gorgeous girl from the werewolf movies? Kate Beckinsale. Yes.
From Underworld.
Yes, Underworld. Yeah, the vampire movies and werewolf movies.
Another sad one.
That was a good movie when it came out, as far as like the graphics and the backstory. But, yeah, it doesn't stand the test of time, I don't think, because I tried to watch it and it's just like, it's just... The best part of that movie, the best person in that movie was the Hunchback kid, Igor. Igor was the best in that movie. Yeah, Igor. Yeah. He was best. I think he told some people to go fuck off. That's why I liked him. But anyway. And then, so we got Morbius coming out, which is the closest thing to an actual vampire movie we have being released now, because it's all about superhero movies and
yeah, I mean,
love stories. So you're not going to get...
Because he is comic book superhero, anti-hero, I guess.
Yeah.
Where, and he's a vampire like that. He just kind of breaks the mold.
Yeah, breaks the mold.
But
we haven't had a good one in a few years. I mean, I mentioned the Netflix series.
Right.
That's a couple years old by now. So we're due for a really good one, I'm hoping. Somebody puts one together. You know, it doesn't have to be with, what's his name from... What's its name? But let's hope for a good one.
It's okay. You don't need to know. I know words are hard.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Joe.
I'm Steve.
There we go. And this has been Dark Oddity. Check us out on Facebook, YouTube. Check us out on Spotify. You can watch us now as well. And if you just want to listen, well, we're on about 20 different podcasting sites. So
pick one.
Check one out. We'll be there. We'll see you soon. Thank you.